The divine light figure said, "The unchanging chaos makes all living beings dissatisfied. Since all living beings want to change and break through the inherent situation, I'll give them a chance. The great Tao immeasurable calamity will still continue." The Holy Mother of Order was silent and fell into deep thought. The divine light figure added, "Continue watching him. Don't let him out before the divine authority generals sweep through the chaos." The Holy Mother of Order replied, "I understand." The divine light figure on her shoulder vanished as if it had never been there. The world fell silent. During Hanju's cultivation, the situation in the immortal world changed. As more and more living beings joined the battle of the calamity, negative karma began to appear in the world. The outside of the 33rd level became lively. The Sage Tao field was discussing this calamity. Heavenly Tao Palace. Tao Sovereign rolled his eyes and said, "In the Divine Palace, the strongest can be conferred the title of Sovereign. My surname is just Tao." "Then, what's your real name?" "Tao Xianyuan." "Hee hee. Let's just call him Tao Yi." Jiang Yi interrupted with a smile. Tao Sovereign wanted to hit someone. Su Qi said, "When do you think the Divine Authority Generals will arrive?" Fang Yang shook his head, indicating that he did not know. Tao Sovereign said, "The chaos is vast. We have been wandering outside for 2 million years. The places we have been to are only the tip of the iceberg. They are not worth mentioning at all. It will take a lot of time for the Divine Authority Generals to monitor the entire chaos. To us, 100,000 years is already long enough, but to the chaos, it's probably only a few breaths of time." Su Qi and Fang Lian were fascinated. Zhao Xianyuan hesitated. Jiang Yi said proudly, "That's right. The three of us have attained freedom. Protecting the two of you is nothing difficult." Su Qi said, "All right, I'll rely on the three of you then." Sure. The atmosphere in the Heavenly Tao Palace was harmonious and there was endless laughter. On the other side, in the Heavenly Race's sacred palace, Ji Xianshen and Tianzhan sat opposite each other. Ji Xianshen's eyes flickered as he asked in a low voice, "Really?" Tianzhan nodded. "Really. Yang Che even came to rope me in and said that the three pure sacred world is willing to accept the Heavenly Tao sages. They have a way to avoid the inspection of the Divine Authority Generals." Ji Xianshen said coldly, "Yang Che is really courting death." Tianzhan hesitated. Ji Xianshen glanced at him and asked, "Tell me, don't hesitate. If the rumors are true, how can the Heavenly Tao stop the Divine Authority Generals? 10,000 Divine Authority Generals. They are all great Tao sages." Tianzhan was excited. He often went to the chaos and had some understanding of the realms above the sages. He was no longer as ignorant as before. Ji Xianshen frowned. "Patriarch, is our heavenly race really going to die with the Heavenly Tao?" Tianzhan clenched his fists. Even Heavenly Venerate Xiandu has dealings with the three pure sacred world. He might already have a way out. The more Tianzhan spoke, the more excited he became. Previously, the heavenly race was a heavenly Tao race. Later, under the schemes of the sages, they were reduced to doing chores in the netherworld. This had always been a sore point of the heavenly race. He felt that there was no need to guard the heavenly Tao. Ji Xianshen said coldly, "Do you think I'm doing this for the heavenly Tao?" Tianzhan was stunned. If not for the heavenly Tao, then what? Could it be? He thought of the immeasurable merit divine might heavenly sage. "We can't retreat if Master doesn't let us." Ji Xianshen snorted. Tianzhan was silent. Ji Xianshen consoled him. "Don't worry. Master will bring us to escape if we really can't defeat them. You might not know much about the divine might heavenly sage, but I know. If not for my master, how could I be where I am today?" How could the heavenly race be where we are today? How could the heavenly Tao be where we are today? Tianzhan smiled bitterly. He knew that the divine might heavenly sage was powerful. But that was 10,000 F Xianhao King Great Tao sages. Ji Xianshen saw the uneasiness in his heart and said, I know that the current situation looks desperate, but only in desperation can one obtain a huge opportunity. If even heavenly venerate Xian Du leaves and we survive the calamity of the divine authority generals, the heavenly Tao will be ours. The hidden sect is very powerful. You should know. Tianzhan's eyes lit up. That was true. However, could they really survive? 50,000 years later. Hanju opened his eyes. His eyes were cold and his body flickered with a faint purple light. Found it! Hanju said softly and smiled. He had finally found the opportunity to reach the Supreme Realm. He estimated that he would break through in at most 100,000 years. How long until the Divine Authority Generals reach the Heavenly Tao? Hanju asked in his mind. 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. About 1.1 million years. There were some changes, but it was enough for him. Hanju was in a good mood. He first checked his emails habitually. His recent circle of friends was calm, and the number of emails was much fewer than before. After reading the emails, he looked at the immortal world. The negative karma in the world became heavier and heavier. Qinling and Xiaojizun had already explored the Buddhist sect 3 times and were stopped. As for the Buddha who Qinling wanted to seek revenge on, he was imprisoned in the Buddhist sect and could not appear. It was obvious that they wanted to protect him. The heavenly Tao immeasurable calamity would end in at most 10,000 years. Then, Hanju came to the heavenly Tao palace. Fang Liang, Su Qi, Tao Sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, and Jiang Yi opened their eyes one after another. They hurriedly knelt down when they saw that it was him. Hanju called Ji Xianshen and Long Hao over. The disciples were very excited to face him and knelt down respectfully. Hanju waved his hand and gestured for them to sit down. Ji Xianshen was the first to speak. Master, a sage wants to escape the heavenly Tao. He's even helping the 3 pure sacred world and other worlds to poach more sages. Jiang Yi snorted. Who's so bold as to court death? Hanju thought for a moment and gathered Qiu Shilai, Sept Master Tianju, Su Dudao, Pan Xin, Qiu Shilai, Heavenly Venerate Wufa, and Hanyu. There were a total of 11 Heavenly Tao sages and 3 Freedom sages. The lineup was quite impressive. The sages looked at each other in surprise. They roughly understood something. Hanju said, You are all sages of my hidden sect. Now that the heavenly Tao has wavered, I still need you to stabilize it. He isolated the heavenly Tao palace so that no one could spy on it. With that said, the heavenly Tao palace fell silent. Tao Sovereign and the other 2 were also stunned. The sages here were not all from the hidden sect, but Hanju said that they were? Fang Liang asked carefully, Grandmaster, you mean? Hanju said expressionlessly, You can trust each other. There's no need to pretend anymore. Whoosh! The sages were in an uproar. Pan Xin stared at Heavenly Venerate Wufa and cursed, I knew there was something wrong with you. Your acting is too superficial. Heavenly Venerate Wufa rolled his eyes and said, What do you know? If I'm not obvious, even Xian won't get it. The other sages also chatted. Sept Master Tianju looked at Qiu Shilai and sighed. Fellow Taoist Qiu, you're also very obvious. Qiu Shilai smiled and said, Amit Ba. Hanyu looked at the excited sages and swallowed. So many sages belong to the hidden sect? After the sages chatted for a while and calmed down, Hanju said, Who do you think we need to rope in and eliminate among the Heavenly Tao sages to stabilize the Heavenly Tao? The Heavenly Tao sages looked at each other. They understood what he meant. Heavenly Venerate Wufa smiled and said, Heavenly Venerate Xiandu, I think it's best to rope him in. After all, he controls the Heavenly Tao. Su Dudao said, Yang Che must be eliminated. This fellow is poaching sages everywhere. What a despicable person. The other sages spoke. Hanju raised his hand and pulled Yang Che into the Heavenly Tao Palace. Discover new Tories at Vubin. Co Yang Che was stunned as he looked at the surrounding sages. Hanju waved his palm and used the great change sealing palm to freeze him. Yang Che widened his eyes and could not move. Hanju left after saying, In the future, you can discuss the matters of the Heavenly Tao. I will also keep an eye on the other sages. Yang Che also disappeared. The sages looked at each other. Jiangyi asked curiously, Will that sage die? Zhao Shenyuan shook his head. How can a Heavenly Tao sage die so easily? Chou Shilai stood up and scanned the sages. Since everyone's already united, think of a way to rope in the other sages. First, control the power of the various important places near the Heavenly Tao. Heavenly Venerate Wufa glanced at him and did not say anything. The other sages nodded. Although it was a discussion, there should be a leader among them to achieve great things. After returning to the Taoist temple, Hanju directly threw Yang Che into the primordial heavenly prison. He looked outside the 33rd heaven, searching for the other sages. The favorability of the other sages did not decrease for the time being, nor did they particularly cross the line. He could observe again. 10,000 years later, Hanju placed Yang Che back outside the 33rd heaven. Yang Che returned to his Tao field. Just as he sat down, Tai Sutian and Jin Shen came. Tai Sutian wore white and had a beautiful and cold expression. She frowned and asked, Yang Che, where have you been all these years? Yang Che opened his eyes and smiled. I went out for a walk. What do you want? Jin Shen asked, How many sages have you roped in? Yang Che said in a low voice, I thought about it and decided to forget it. Forget it? The two sages were stunned as they stared at him. Yang Che shook his head and did not say anything. He looked at Tai Sutian and said, You would rather go to the three pure sacred world than worship Nuwa. I think you have nowhere to go. Why don't we join forces to serve the Heavenly Tao? This is our home, after all. If you go elsewhere, you will be living under someone else's roof. Tai Sutian frowned even more. Yang Che continued to persuade. Jin Shen felt that something was wrong. He suddenly thought of something and his expression became strange. Could this fellow have submitted to the Divine Might Heavenly Sage? In the Universal Hall, Heavenly Venerate Xiandu and Laodan meditated side by side. Their bodies were filled with wisps of green smoke that scattered and appeared occasionally. Laodan opened his eyes and asked, What do you think? Heavenly Venerate Xiandu did not even open his eyes and asked back, What are you referring to, teacher? Of course, it's the Heavenly Tao. I'm not thinking about it. Hee, do you really want to guard the Heavenly Tao until you die? In the past, I abandoned the human race for the sake of cultivation. For the sake of freedom, I abandoned the Heavenly Tao. I'm not willing to abandon it anymore. I want to risk it. Laodan was silent. Laodan smiled teasingly. The reason the Heavenly Tao is targeted is that it's related to Pango. The three pure ones have long jumped out of karma. How can they stay below Pango? Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said, Everyone has their own ambitions. I wish teacher success. Hee. Laodan shook his head and stood up. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu asked, Where are you going? Let's go see those 3 silly kids. I have to think of a way to save them so as to not waste so much effort if the heavenly Tao dies. Loudon waved his hand and disappeared. Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du sighed. In the immortal world, Qinling and Xiaojizuan brought the geniuses of the Divine Palace and slaughtered their way into the Buddhist sect. However, the sages attacked and suppressed them with a palm. The power of a sage shocked, terrified, and even caused despair to countless living beings near the spiritual mountain. Fortunately, at the critical moment, the sage of the Divine Palace, Zhang Guxing, appeared. The sage negotiated, and when the situation was at a stalemate, the Buddha who was hated by Qinling appeared. He made a great wish and was willing to sacrifice himself to repay his blood feud with Qinling. He turned all his immeasurable merit into the power of a great wish and revived all the living beings who had died near the spiritual mountain. In this battle, the sages attacked openly, making all living beings understand that everyone below the sages were ants. Qinling and Xiaojizuan obtained a huge amount of heavenly Tao merit and followed Zhang Guxing to the 33rd heaven. In short, this immeasurable calamity had ended successfully. After all living beings learned of the cruelty of the immeasurable calamity, they respected sages and cherished peace even more. Year after year passed. 10,000 years later, Hanju was still cultivating in seclusion. He had already immersed himself in the impact of the great Tao. On this day, 3 lines of words appeared in front of him. Detected that you are 3 million years old and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and destroy the 10,000 divine authority generals. Raise the reputation of the primordial fiend celestial. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a heavenly Tao spirit stone, a supreme treasure, and a great Tao guard. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner. Your goal is to reach the great Tao supreme realm. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. Hanju directly chose the second option. Ignore the trap. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. Congratulations on obtaining the chaotic supreme treasure Chaotic Divine Chain. Chaotic Divine Chain, defensive chaotic supreme treasure. It is the supreme treasure derived from the first wisp of chaotic chi at the beginning of the chaos. It has the defense to resist the invasion of the chaotic rule. Another chaotic defensive supreme treasure. Hanju was not surprised, but he was not disappointed. He first fused the creation spirit stone with a ball of fiend celestial Q, before taking out the chaotic divine chain and refining it into his dharma treasure. 300 years later, this treasure was successfully refined. The chaotic divine chain transformed into a silver-white chain of light that landed on Hanju's neck, making him feel quite awkward like it was the accessory of a woman. Hanju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. No one could stop him. In the Universal Hall, the sages gathered and looked at Qinling, Xiaojizuan, and the World Salvation Buddha. The World Salvation Buddha was Qinling's mortal enemy in the calamity. Now that the calamity had ended, the grudges had dissipated. Hanyu looked at Qinling with a gratified gaze. Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du said, "From today onwards, Qinling, Xiaojizuan, and the World Salvation Buddha are all Heavenly Tao sages. I hope that you can help all living beings in the Heavenly Tao in the future and protect it." The 3 new sages immediately thanked him. The sages smiled. With 3 more sages, the Heavenly Tao became stronger again. It's not our problem if they want to leave the Heavenly Tao, but they have to drag other sages along. Such intentions are punishable. His tone was very impolite. Many sages nodded. Heavenly Venerate Wufa chuckled. Since the calamity has ended and the heavenly Tao is stable, it's time to quell the chaos in the sage level. The atmosphere became subtle. Li Taigu, Zhang Guxing, Emperor Shao, the south extreme heavenly venerate, and the other sages also began to size each other up. In fact, they had all received recruitment offers from the chaotic forces and were wavering. The pressure brought by 10,000 divine authority generals was too terrifying. Just hearing those rumors made them uneasy. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, I hereby express that I will definitely protect the heavenly Tao and not abandon it. What about you? Qinling, Xiaojizuan, and the World Salvation Buddha were puzzled. The heavenly Tao was facing a calamity? Heavenly Venerate Wufa, Feng Liang, Su Qi, Pan Xian, Chao Shilai, Sect Master Tianju, Han Yu, Su Dudao, Yang Che, Ji Xianshen, Tian Zhan, and Long Hao also promised. Qinling, Xiaojizuan, and the World Salvation Buddha were the same. The remaining sages had no choice but to promise. At this juncture, whoever dared to reject would be courting death. His words received the other sages' agreement. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, although there's the threat of the divine authority generals, it's still unknown when they will arrive. The development of the heavenly Tao still has to continue. We can only summon the living beings of the heavenly Tao back from the chaos. We can continue to build the dark forbidden zone near the heavenly Tao and create more mortal worlds and realms. He began to talk about the plan. With the declaration of Heavenly Venerate Xian Du and the sages, the heavenly Tao returned to its original state. The most terrifying thing was that the other sages would quietly slip away when the battle began. Pan Xian began to try to create a second chaotic heavenly road. He gave this merit to Jinshen. Jinshen was not very surprised. He knew that Pan Xian wanted to tie him to the heavenly Tao. However, he could not refuse and could only accept it. The other sages were also creating great merit to benefit all living beings. The entire heavenly Tao flourished as if it had forgotten the divine authority general's existence. Hanju, who the sages relied on, was still cultivating in seclusion. 64820 years passed. Hanju finally had the chance to break through. At this moment, the nebulous primordial chi in the depths of his soul had already vanished. The entire primordial world had turned purple. A space was formed from the chi. 7 colored halos appeared around the 10.8 decillion stars. It was beautiful. The stars were the Great Tao, and the Great Tao was the stars. Hanju emitted a divine light. His Taoist temple could not hide it. Divine light soared into the sky and shone on the sky of the 100-peak immortal river, attracting the attention of all the disciples. What's that? It came from the Sect Master's temple. It should be a mystical power. Sect Master is really powerful. Is Sect Master really still in the 100-peak immortal river? I thought he had already moved to the 33rd heaven. I'm not sure. Could it be a breakthrough? It's said that the Divine Might Heavenly Sage is the strongest prodigy in the history of the Heavenly Tao. He can still break through? Can. Hanju focused on breaking through and didn't care about the discussions outside. However, this breakthrough was longer than before. 3,000 years passed before he finally broke through. The divine light dissipated, and countless stars floated in the Taoist temple. The strange deity had returned at some point and was wandering among the stars, looking very cheerful. At this moment, Hanju's consciousness had already jumped out of the heavenly Tao and was quickly rising. More and more scenes of the chaos entered his vision, as if the entire chaos was rapidly shrinking. This feeling was very strange. After an unknown period of time, Hanju's consciousness finally stopped expanding. He looked down again. The chaos had changed. He saw a power, an indescribable power. Hanju's consciousness entered a sublime state. All the space-time related to him surged into his eyes. The previous and current lives, the past and future. The karma of parallel possibilities. There were countless possibilities of all karma. In an instant, he seemed to have lived countless years and countless lives. In the end, everything shattered like a mirror. Hanju opened his eyes and looked down at the chaos again. The living beings of the chaos vanished. The layers of space turned into nothingness, leaving only the 3,000 great Tao interwoven in the chaos. Above the 3,000 great Tao were 7 powerful and mysterious powers. They were high and mighty and absorbed the power of the 3,000 great Tao. Is that the great Tao Providence divine authority? Hanju looked at the 7 mysterious powers above the 3,000 great Tao and was a little curious. He noticed a crack on one of the powers. It was obvious. Could it be the karma of the great Tao Providence divine authority severed by Pango? This was an unprecedented feeling. It was extremely powerful, even making him feel that he was omnipotent. He could shake the situation of the 3,000 great Tao with a wave of his hand. Most importantly, he could create reality now. With a thought, he could turn his thoughts into reality and put them into the chaos, forming a true spacetime. He could also take it back with a thought. However, the world he imagined would be affected by the power of creation and constantly evolve once it existed for too long. It was probably the power of Pango and the Tao ancestor. Pango had created the world. Perhaps he had not really sacrificed himself. He had only used the power of the great Tao Supreme to create what he imagined. Then, in this fantasy world, a stunning figure like the Tao ancestor was born. With his cultivation, he had made the heavenly Tao an independent existence that could not be taken back. Hanju's gaze landed on the power of creation. It was the power that hung above the 3,000 great Tao. It was also the strongest power. Creation was everything. The 7 supreme powers did not belong to anyone and were eternally independent. The light of the power of creation was the brightest. The endless power of creation turned invisible and split into countless parts that scattered in every corner of the chaos. Hanju scanned the chaos. Its vastness surprised him. It was true that there was no end to it. Seen. A mysterious power maintained the chaos at its edge, causing all living beings to reverse direction through this power. The direction they headed was also random. As this power surged, it moved, forming an endless scene. Only by reaching the great Tao Supreme Realm could one sense that power. It was not the power of the 7 supreme rules, but another power, a power that Hanju couldn't see through. Sir. Of course, the chaos itself was also extremely vast. According to Hanju's estimation, it would take at least 1,000,000 years for a great Tao sage to travel the entire chaos. This did not include the power of the great Tao sage to touch the mysterious border. If he directly touched it and felt dizzy, it would probably take even longer to continue traveling the chaos. It was blank outside the chaos. Absolute blankness. In the blank space, there were vaguely some huge bones. There was no life or signs of life. Hanju suddenly saw a figure looking down at the chaos like him. He could not see who the figure was. He did not go over rashly. Both sides did not disturb each other. Hanju continued to observe the chaos. Many areas of the chaos were isolated by the power of the great Tao and couldn't be spied on. The power of the great Tao Supreme was very easy to distinguish. It was different from the 3,000 great Tao and was even more dangerous. It made Hanju instinctively want to stay away. Hanju continued to immerse himself in it. After a long while, his consciousness returned to reality and he opened his eyes. Countless stars filled his body, dazzling. On a whim, Hanju casually grabbed a star and threw it into the chaos. In an instant, it landed at the edge of the chaos. It was extremely far from the heavenly Tao, so far away that sages might never reach it. Under Hanju's gaze, the star exploded in the darkness. It contained the true meaning of the Tao. The Tao gave birth to all things and transformed into a huge galaxy that was still evolving. With a thought, Hanju used his will to send a force from the creation rule into the universe. Perhaps a great Tao sage would appear inside. Anything was possible. This was the great Tao Supreme. Creating an existence was only a thought. As long as no sage was born in that world, Hanju could turn them into nothingness with a thought, even if the world had countless living beings, as if they had never existed. So this is seeing through the illusion. The voice that spoke to me back then was Pango, right? Hanju thought silently and was determined. Pango's benevolence gave birth to the heavenly Tao. This was also the reason why the heavenly Tao was unique in the chaos. Pango allowed the Tao ancestor to grow and even control the heavenly Tao. The other great Tao Supremes would not allow this to happen. Hanju's eyes narrowed. The countless stars in the Taoist temple instantly disappeared. The strange deity was shocked and hurriedly fled the Taoist temple, afraid that Hanju would discover him. Hanju began to consolidate his cultivation. His dermic powers had already transformed into supreme power. It was no longer dermic powers, but a power that was stronger than the great Tao. Hanju checked his attributes panel. Name, Hanju. Lifespan, 3,065,120. 12,499,999,999,999 999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999,999, 99,999,999. Race, primordial fiend celestial, immeasurable emperor. Cultivation, early stage great Tao supreme realm, perfect sage. Technique, primordial chaos reincarnation great Tao, heavenly cycle body tempering. Great Tao of life and death, great Tao of karma, great Tao of extreme origin. His lifespan increased by 9 digits. 12 trillion years. Was this still not eternal? Hanju found it strange. Perhaps it was related to the system itself. In any case, Hanju felt that he was already undying and indestructible. Previously, when he spied on the chaos, other than those unfathomable great Tao supreme regions, he didn't capture the existence of the Tao creator. For example, the foolish sword sage. When will my lifespan be endless? Hanju asked in his mind. The lifespan displayed here is your origin lifespan. You can already jump out of time. You can place your main body in a domain without the restrictions of the supreme rules as long as you want to. It is already the eternal immortality understood by mortals. Hanju was enlightened. No wonder those great Tao Supremes were so mysterious. Even the great Tao sages thought that they didn't exist. They only hid outside the rules, like the mysterious sea where the Holy Mother of Order resided. In other words, Hanju could also do this and make himself eternal when his lifespan was about to run out. However, doing this was equivalent to leaving the chaos. Under such circumstances, he could no longer use powers and supreme treasures that consumed his origin lifespan. Hanju consolidated his cultivation as he thought. Hanju's cultivation finally stabilized after 30,000 years. At this moment, a notification appeared in front of him. Detected that you have attained the Great Tao Supreme and the essence of life has transformed. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and create the primordial chaos. Your goal is to overturn the chaos. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment, a Creation Spirit Stone, a Primordial fragment, and 10 Great Tao Sage Guards. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and maintain your original intention. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment, a Creation Spirit Stone, a Primordial fragment, and a chance to activate a new function of the system. Finally, Hanju smiled as he looked at the 3 lines of words in front of him. He silently chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a Great Tao fragment, a Creation Spirit Stone, a Primordial fragment, and a chance to activate a new function of the system. The system has activated a new function, Supreme Treasure Fusion Cauldron. Supreme Treasure Fusion Cauldron, it can fuse all Dharma treasures and perfectly inherit the advantages of the fused Dharma treasures. This cauldron is only located in the Myriad Worlds projection. To use this treasure, one has to obtain the right to enter the Myriad Worlds projection. Everyone can only use it once every million years. This function, not bad. He could still face his disciples. All along, Hanju had always had a carefree attitude towards his disciples. Other than occasionally preaching, he actually didn't take much care of them. With the Supreme Treasure Fusion Cauldron, the disciples could obtain powerful Dharma treasures and be grateful to him. In addition, Hanju could also use this function himself. Hanju took out the Creation Spirit Stone and fused it with a ball of Fiend Celestial Chi. He first teleported to the second Tao field and released the chaotic Fiend Celestial he had created previously to let Murongchi lead the way. In other words, there were a total of 44 sages in the second Tao field. Murongchi, the Crimson Fox, and the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial were already infinitely close to the Freedom Realm. They developed very quickly. After Murongchi led the new Fiend Celestial away, Tao Comprehension Sword looked at him and said, "Master, you seem different. Did you break through again?" Liao opened her eyes and looked at him. Hanju, who had achieved the Great Tao Supreme, looked no different from before, but it made people inexplicably respectful and didn't dare to have any profane thoughts. Hanju smiled. "It's all right. How's your cultivation recently?" He walked towards the 2 women and sat down, chatting with them. After a long while, Hanju returned to the main Tao field and started to improve his Sword Tao mystical powers. He succeeded in just a few hours. Then, he switched to cultivating the Grand Unity aspect. 99 years later, Hanju had learned 500 new Fiend Celestial Dharma idols and could no longer cultivate. He had accumulated 1,949 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols. He opened his eyes and smiled. He was in high spirits. Fight! 10,000 foolish sword sages first. A breath later, Hanju opened his eyes and looked disdainful. Double. 20,000. Instant kill. 30,000. He killed them in a few breaths. Hanju adjusted his method and insta-killed 30,000 foolish sword sages several times. His supreme power far exceeded the Dharmic powers before his breakthrough. Coupled with the power of nearly 2,000 Great Tao, it erupted in one go, destroying everything. Not only was the body and soul destroyed, but even karma, time, and existence were destroyed. Hanju felt so strong. This power was simply indescribable. Hanju changed his method of fighting and created 1,949 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols. He made all the Dharma idols contain 12 tridecillion primordial stars. The Fiend Celestial Dharma idols directly sublimated. Including Hanju, it was equivalent to 1,950 primordial Fiend Celestials. Invincibility. Indeed, the primordial Fiend Celestial really expanded rapidly as its cultivation level increased. The higher its cultivation level, the more obvious its advantage. Only supreme power could truly activate the stellar primordial body. He continued to increase the number of foolish sword sages. 50,000. Hanju increased the number of foolish sword sages to 100,000 in one go. There was finally a change. The 100,000 foolish sword sages waved their swords in unison. There was actually a scene of the great Tao fusing. It was extremely domineering. Hanju finally felt tired. Unconsciously, 100,000 seemed to contain a certain meaning. After the great Tao fused, the foolish sword sage transformed. He actually had the divine might of a great Tao Supreme, and not an ordinary great Tao Supreme at that. How terrifying! Hanju barely won after 10 minutes. He continued to challenge the 100,000 foolish sword sages. After hundreds of battles, Hanju could finally win forcefully, but he couldn't insta-kill the 100,000 foolish sword sages. Hanju opened his eyes and asked in his mind, "Can I insta-kill 10,000 divine authority generals now?" 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes. Safe. Hanju smiled. He looked at the chaos, searching for the 10,000 divine authority generals. His vision quickly increased. Just like when his will looked down at the chaos, he searched for 10,000 divine authority generals from high above. Soon, he saw the 10,000 divine authority generals traveling through the chaos. They were still quite a distance away from the heavenly Tao. If I go to the chaos now, will the chaotic consciousness recognize me as a primordial fiend celestial? Hanju asked in his mind. 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. No, because the chaotic consciousness has never seen a primordial fiend celestial. In addition, Pangu severed the karma of the great Tao Providence divine authority, causing the chaotic consciousness and the great Tao divine spirits to be unable to deduce karma. They can only look. Even the chaotic consciousness could not deduce karma? Pangu was something. However, just having eyes was enough. Hanju could see the entire chaos, let alone the chaotic consciousness. Hanju thought for a moment and started to search for the foolish sword sage in the chaos. He could not find him. Could it be that this fellow had also created a domain that belonged to him and was independent of the rules? Hanju used the dark nightmare and sent a dream to the foolish sword sage. The dream was the primordial void where the two of them had fought. The foolish sword sage opened his eyes and was moved when he saw Hanju. You can actually forcefully send me a dream. He did not sense anything. The foolish sword sage was shocked. He was a great Tao Supreme. He felt that he was already an invincible existence. In the entire chaos, only Laozi and Pangu were barely his match. Why was this happening? The foolish sword sage could not figure it out. Hanju said, "Silly fellow Taoist, long time no see." The foolish sword sage suppressed his fear and shock and said in a low voice, "You can call me fellow Taoist, foolish sword or sage." Old fool. Yes? Where are you hiding? Why can't I find you? Hanju ignored the foolish sword sage's dissatisfaction and asked curiously. The foolish sword sage felt better. That was more like it. Foolish sword sage said proudly, "Of course, I'm in the divine domain I created. Other than me, no one knows where it is." Hanju said, "Come out quickly. I want to see you. You're already so strong, yet you're still hiding. Who are you afraid of?"